Good morning, comrade. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. Jeff here as usual, and we have returning champion. You're taking the lead, I think, at this point pretty comfortably.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
For all-time most frequent guest on the program. We might have to put you on our website or something, give you a trophy, a participation in the most trophy.
I'll take it all.
MarkAlain Dery still wearing his scrubs as we record. What is up, my man? Long day.
Well, it was a long day at work today, but it felt really good, even though it was a heavy burden being at the hospital doing all the work. I walked on air, given all of the victories that happened last night. Tuesday, May 4th. Wow. November 4th, which we were just talking a moment ago. We were just talking a moment ago. That should be a holiday for progressives. I think I saw a shirt that was like Dick Cheney died on the day that a Muslim became the mayor of, there was something along those lines, which I just thought was great. And then the second thing I'll say was I sent you a text yesterday morning, just being like, cue all the Dick Cheney and what the rehabilitation of his the way that they rehabbed the folks after they died, like they did with not Nixon, with Kissinger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But have you seen anything? Like I just saw, like I've hardly seen anything about the death of Cheney. Like there has been no rehabilitation of Cheney, and does that mean that he really was hated on the conservative media side as he was amongst progressives?
Well, he stepped out of line. The conservatives hated him because he came out like against Trump. And if you remember, like the huge controversy over the election this past time with the Democrats, specifically with Kamala Harris, was that she sought out and got the endorsement of Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, which is like, really cool, guys. You did a great job getting the worst two people on earth to endorse you friggin' morons. So like the right had sort of already kind of kicked them to the curb. And of course, the Democrats, I sent these to you, of course. You had Joe Brandon, the disease-brained former president, who is one of the most responsible people for the horrible situation that we're in right now, and his partner in crime, Kamala Harris, both sending out like their condolences and talking about how great. So again, the rehabilitation project that was being put forward, the thing that was extended to Charlie Kirk was not extended to Dick Cheney, which
unbelievable. Unbelievable. I thought for sure there was going to be a massive rehabilitation, and I've just been pleasantly surprised that there hasn't been. I mean,
Democrats excluded, obviously.
Yeah, he was a terrible person. I was reminded that he was the youngest chief of staff at the White House to Nixon. I knew that. But, the thing that I think that just can never be forgiven, I mean, there are many, many non-forgivables. But the one thing more than anything else, and what they never talk about was, and I think I mentioned this to you in the text yesterday, was we went to war with Iraq based on a lie, but then also became a cash cow for Halliburton, for which he still held a lot of stock in when he was the CEO of. And he got all of these no-bid contracts that went directly to Halliburton. And how, like, when we look at the history of this country, how is it that the massive corruption that happens at the tippy top of government officials never gets talked about because it's perceived as being rude or inappropriate or what have you? Like, it is something that needs when the books are written about Trump, that I hope will also be there. But man, it was so obvious with the Halliburton situation. It was so obvious why we were going into Iraq. It was so obvious, but it's just like it's impolite to talk about it, or I don't know. Like, why isn't it?
It was bipartisan as well. I mean, like the Democrats were just about it as much as the Republicans. I mean, Joe Biden himself voted for the Iraq War. Kamala Harris was the. Sorry if I interrupted you, but like Kamala Harris was the sort of like disciple of Joe Biden in the sense that even though she dogged him and talked about how he was
Love it.
or whatever. But
That
like,
little girl
yeah,
was me.
yeah. But then all of a sudden, she just decides to debase herself. Because I say she was debasing herself. She was always that person. But like, these kind of like establishment, Democrat centrist figures. I'm sure, if my new governor elect Abigail Bamberger had enough motion, she would have done the same thing. Alyssa Slotkin, all these CIA centrist creatures. I think it was Bill Kristol who was like he was like the one guy who was like the Cheney and Zohran guy, which is very funny. But like it really was a bizarre sort of situation looking back, because the political right, who was essentially like identifiable, like it was Bush and Cheney were the great Satan, and the right eschewed him as soon as they found their new toy in Trump, and
Right.
he kind of like spit in their face.
Right. And the other thing too
And
is,
the
of
liberals
course,
embraced them, of course, and that's the most disgusting part.
right, 100%. And the fact that also, let's also remember that he was part of a ticket in, was it 2004, when they ran on the notion that marriage constituted between a man and a
Yeah,
woman, and his daughter is gay.
yeah,
And his daughter's gay. Like, and the fact that Liz Cheney also ran on that, or she supported that as well. I mean, these people are just
the
despicable.
ghouls.
Even like, just despicable. Like, it's unbelievable. And he was a horrible person. I actually thought that he was going to live forever, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought he would, he had
Darth
100
Vader
years.
IRL.
Right. I really thought
Just
that
to
he was
put
going to go to
our our
100.
our
And
fourth, or May the Fourth holiday extension a
yeah,
little bit further. He was
right.
Darth Vader.
Yeah. So yeah, given the wins of yesterday, given the loss of Darth Vader, we were joking that this will be the new May the Fourth be with you, November 4th, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was great. We were on air yesterday as some of these wins came in, and I remember saying NBC is calling it for Zohran, and that was just. That was I remember, because we are all a chatty crew and everybody's talking on top of one
Oh my
another.
god.
But for a second, that just kind of cut through and everybody just kind of stopped,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I mean, let's confirm it, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, let's give. Oh, do you want to run this first?
Well, who agrees with us on
Yeah,
Dick
yeah,
Cheney
yeah.
is,
Let's.
and
Hey
again,
everyone, Graham
this
Platner
is
here.
sorry, this is like not. We're going to talk about Platner later, but like one of the people who would agree with us in our assessment of Dick Cheney is a former Marine who is now running for Senate. Currently,
Who fought in those Iraq wars?
yeah, and also worked for some private military companies or whatever as well. But like he and I do think this is remarkable that he's saying this while running for office. It means that there's political like there's political opportunity even to be perceived, if you want to look at it even like cold and as coldly as possible. Like it feels safe at this point for somebody who's
Yes.
currently running for Senate to say this. So
Right.
let's take a look.
Hey everyone, Graham Platner here. Usually when a former vice president passes, we all take some time to mourn. As a veteran of the Iraq War, I'm going to say, no, not this time. Over the next couple of days, I'm sure there are going to be thousands of think pieces written about his legacy. But the only legacy that we have to remember is that he wasted thousands of young American lives, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives, and trillions of dollars for absolutely nothing. If we take anything away from this, it should be that we need to build a politics that keeps the politicians like Susan Collins, who support illegal foreign wars like the one in Iraq,
Good job.
accountable and get them out of office.
Boom. I mean, very short, very sweet. But like, again, regardless of how, anybody comes down on Platner for other things about him, and we'll talk about that, like I said, in a bit. Like that, you can't, no notes. Like that's good. Like you can't say that's bad. Right?
No, and I think you're tapping into something that I think is really important, Jeff, and that is that he is safe to be able to say something like that.
Yeah.
Like this is a new political
Not even
moment
just
for
safe,
us.
like that, like not even safe. Like you
But
were
that's
saying that because it'll boost your political position.
yeah, because people like us are like good, like speak the truth. Like because think about it, Kissinger died what, like a year and a half ago? Like
It was like 2019, 2018 or something like that.
oh, was that?
Let me
Oh,
look it up.
jeez, God, what is time? Was it really that long ago? Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry.
2023,
Wow.
2023. I was way off.
Okay. Oh
2023 was
yeah. Thank goodness. Okay. So it was still not safe to be able. I mean, some people would say it, but not somebody who has the visibility of a Graham Platner who's
no.
running for who has a real
Wait,
shot as a senatorial candidate to
yeah.
win, and like Kissinger, who is probably like in line as being some of the worst Americans that lived, in the last 50 years. Those
Bomb
two,
Cambodia, Agent Orange, Vietnam War, all that stuff.
right. Those two are some of the worst. And just a year and a half ago, you could not say anything bad about Kissinger. Like nobody felt safe. But now people are feeling safe. And so this is why I'm saying to a large degree, it's speaking to the moment of we're not seeing these rehabilitation. And I think it's explained by what you were saying a moment ago. He pissed off the conservatives. No one on the left liked him ever. But I think it's still, we're not feeling like we have to go, Cheney, we need to remember him for being a great American. F him. No, he wasn't. He was a horrible American. He was responsible for many, many American lives,
And 10
thousands,
times more,
and 10 times Iraqi lives. Plus, he and his buddies got rich. They got rich on the blood of Americans and of Iraqis. So screw that dude.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned this both last night and on a previous show. The biggest tragedy, the only tragedy, I would say, and I'm cribbing Will Menaker from Chapo Trap House as I say this. The only tragedy in the death of figures like Cheney and Kissinger is that they never faced the music for their crimes. At least, if you believe in an afterlife, perhaps they're, burning in hell or whatever. But like in the world that we know of as that we can define definitely that is real, that they never faced the consequences for any of their actions.
They never went to the Hague.
They never went to the Hague. They died surrounded by their loved ones and their family, which I imagine is a certain kind of hell. But regardless, like, it is not justice, and that is the only tragedy when it comes to the death of these figures, is the fact that they essentially got to live their entire lives and not have to, causing so much death, causing so much destruction, the murder of in Cheney's case, millions of Iraqi and Afghanistani civilians, the death and destruction of multiple governments, war crimes, torture, all that stuff, and they get to die peacefully in their homes or hospitals.
But I think if there is a positive saving grace there, it's likely that he also died isolated in America because he can't travel. And it's the same thing with Bush as well, because there's probably limited. They could probably go to Israel, but even if they flew over airspace, they couldn't go through commercial.
It better be a direct flight.
Yeah, because they would likely be arrested. And that's another thing that we are seeing too. And I would imagine that American officials better be concerned about is that with the threat of America being gone. In other words, you have countries around the world that are no longer feeling beholden to the US, that if there are people who are accused of war crimes, I am hopeful that other countries will arrest those individuals. And I'm thinking that this is why Bush and Cheney, we never see them travel outside of the US. And I think that largely is because they're fearful of traveling.
Yeah. Station ID. WHIVLP New Orleans. Go ahead.
Now, if you're tuning in, you are listening to 102.3 WHIV LPFM in New Orleans. We are Radio Null HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. We are a mission with the radio station. That is to end all wars.
And yeah, especially in the moment of the death of one of the great progenitors of many of those wars that we seek to end, that takes on a bit of extra meaning. I'm just, maybe talking to God here a little bit. Do Netanyahu next. How about Putin?
Yeah, there is. Well, there is.
There
a
are many.
list.
There are many. There are
There
still many.
are.
There are still many death bringers that exist in our society. Like, these people are not necessarily relics of the past. I mean, Joe Biden himself is a massive death bringer, especially in the past 2 years, when it comes to the genocide in Gaza, and the allowance of the incursions and colonization in the West Bank of Palestine as well. Sorry, I paused for a second, but I was just thinking of, I don't know if you saw the clips that Jasper Nathaniel had taken when he was in the West Bank recently. I can't remember which.
Oh yeah, of course. No.
He was
That was just
basically like,
brutal.
he
That
was
was brutal.
essentially attacked or chased
Yep.
by settlers. He's an American, by the way, American journalist, and basically he was threatened and chased by settlers in occupied Palestinian territory in the West Bank. And when it comes to him going to embassies and trying to get some kind of support or backing of it, his life was literally like at risk and on the line in the eminent sense. And the American embassies is just like, that's sad for you.
And he was set up, and he was lured into an ambush.
Yeah.
He was lured into an ambush. I mean, so I saw it on the when the Majority Report reported on it, and then I think like 5 days later or 4 days later, or however, Democracy Now! Did a whole segment on it as well and interviewed him as well, and replayed those very harrowing videos. And I mean, he's basically showed, like, then he talked about how one of these guys came out and he kind of described him as a very large, big dude, and then just walked over to this elderly female who was just tending to her olive trees, and then just like had a club or had something and just like struck her with it. And and he was kind of freaking out. And yeah, listen, it's terrible. This morning you had the guy from the ADL on, making the rounds on the news, ADL in New York, and just what a loathsome human being he is, right? And and again, as an American Jew, let's be very clear. You can talk about Israel and this is what Zohran talks about regularly. You can talk about Israel as a government and not say anything specific about Jewish people or the Jewish religion. Okay. But what is becoming very clear now in the Jewish world, speaking as a Jew, you have now Zionist Jews and anti-Zionist Jews. And it cuts very deep. It cuts very deep in families. It cuts deep in friendships. And and in my world,
some very awkward high holidays, I'm sure.
Oh, well, no, like that, like I'm talking, it cuts so deep where like I'll just speak on behalf of my family and my friends. Their communications are being cut, like communication. And this is something I've talked about before, publicly, when I talk about how these, you remember 11 years ago or however long it was, when Israel was doing one of the, what do they call it, the lawn mowing, or
mowing the lawn.
mowing
You're
the
talking
lawn.
about Operation Cast Lead in 2014.
Is that, yeah, okay? Have I told you the story? I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry.
I don't know if you told me the story, but I know of Operation Cast Lead for sure.
Yeah, so it was in 2014. Do you remember when a boat or a vessel on the water purposely bombed these four? They shot a missile onto the beach, and these four boys were playing soccer. Do you remember this? And it was in front of a hotel or several hotels where there was a number of journalists, and they witnessed it. It was witnessed. and it was horrible. And and I sent out back in the days when Facebook was still a little bit more of a friendly place. That was pretty much the last time I probably posted on Facebook. But I wrote an open letter to American Jews saying like, "Yo, this is the stuff that makes people hate Jews. We need to push Israel to do better and be better." Well, I got married the next year, and nobody from my family showed up. My brother, my father, and my aunt. The rest of my family didn't show up because the majority, if not almost the entirety of my family, are Zionists, and it runs very, very deep.
It
And
probably would have been no fun anyway.
yeah, well, yeah, there's that as well. But yeah, like it's so hard to talk about it without getting emotional
Yeah.
because I always
I don't
say
mean to be. I don't mean to be twee about it. Obviously.
be no. You're fine. You're fine. But the other thing I will say, and if you want to move on, this is fine. But
Yeah.
it is that I one of the things I like to do, especially when I go to countries, especially countries that have experienced genocides, they always have a genocide museum. Okay. And I always like to go to a country's genocide museum. It's usually in a capital city because it's really interesting. And like you and listeners here of Good Morning Comrade, this is the sort of stuff that we care about. And we want to educate ourselves and, kind of understand and be as informed as possible. And one of the things that I see now in my mind's eye when I go to one, and the most recent one I went to, there was the Palestinian genocide. There was the Holocaust, and then right next to it, they were starting to create the Palestinian genocide as well. Like I could see it coming up, and that's when it occurred to me that that here we have it. Like you have and it's very
It's
rare for
happening right now.
it's happening right now, but it's very rare for a person who's Jewish in America or wherever to not have a family member who's been, or somebody who's been and in fact, I'm in America largely because of family that went through the trauma of the Holocaust, right?
Right.
And so to be the people who experience the trauma, then to then go ahead and then deliver that trauma. You go from abused to abuser. I mean, and to
Cycle of
see
violence.
Yes, and to see this, and this is something that I'm sure I've talked to you about a number of times, is that what do we see on TV whenever you see like the bad guys? Who were the bad guys in Back to the Future? Do you remember that
Yeah.
very remember the Muslims with the
Yeah.
exaggerated turbans, and they
The
were
machine guns. Yeah.
the machine guns and
They shot Doc. I
Germans.
can't believe it. They shot Doc.
Yeah, they shot Doc. Right. But who are the bad guys? It's usually Muslims or terrorists, right? Or
Especially in the
Germans
90s. I'm
or
sorry. Especially in the 90s.
Russians.
Especially in the 90s. The 80s was the Russians mostly. But in the 90s, it was a lot. Even before 9/11, the war on terror, it was a lot of, Arab, Muslim, caricatures of terrorists. One of the ones that really stands out because it was so generic. Have you ever seen the movie, the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis movie? I love the movie, by the way, True Lies, where Arnold Schwarzenegger is like secretly like moonlighting as a secret agent, but like in his day life he's like some dork, but he's like this like incredible secret agent or whatever, and Jamie Lee Curtis is his dorky mousy wife who like some kind of how gets wrapped up in it. It's a hilarious movie, but the villain is like just the most caricature-ish, like insert dial an Arab villain that you could possibly imagine. You know what I mean?
Well, I think moving forward, I think that the films and the movies in 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, I think the new bad guys are going to be Israelis, and I think it's going to be Americans.
Yeah.
I think that the new stories that are going to be told when they want the stereotypical bad guy, I think the German, the Russian, and thank God, thank goodness already, thank Allah, is going to be they're going to put to rest the tired old Arab terrorist trope, inshallah, moving forward. And it's likely going to be Americans and Israelis. So F you, all you Israeli, like you are doing so much harm to being Jewish. You are making it very difficult to be a Jew. Okay. Like you are doing more harm than you are good.
And I hate to do this too, but it's gotta be kind of underlined as well. Like a huge part of the American Zionist movement also aren't even Jewish. There are so many
Well, that's a
Christian.
great point.
There's so
Yes.
many Christian evangelical Zionists who literally want Israel to exist because they don't want Jews to be living near them. And the state of Israel and many Zionists, in fact, all Zionists, quite frankly, have made an alliance with these literal, straight up anti-Semites to essentially do what they want, to essentially vacate your country if you're an American Jew, to essentially vacate your place, give them the space because they want you out of here. Like,
Well, and then also what the other thing too that I think is equally important to understand is that in the Christians' mindset of what the end times are going to look like, the second coming of Christ
the
includes
evangelical vision of that, yeah,
the
the millennial,
evangelical.
yeah.
Go ahead, explain it.
No, it's essentially the sort of like millennialist sort of like second coming, the doom bringers, the people that are just sort of like talking about the rapture on TikTok now in 2025 or whatever. They want the Jews out of there because that is what would bring forward the second coming.
Right. The second coming has to happen in Israel, and it has to
Yeah.
happen with Jews there.
Mhm.
But here's the story that like the Jews don't understand. Like in the end of that story, the Christians live forever in
Yeah.
heaven, and all the Jews, even though we don't believe in hell, we all die.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just like it is.
You're doing
Jeff,
somebody else's prophecy.
right. Jeff, dream with me for a time when we live back in a world where people really look toward the long term,
Mhm.
right? Like where we think about things today in anticipating things generations from now, rather
Mhm.
than measuring profits by quarters, right? Where every quarter we have to do more, or by
Mhm.
political cycles every 2 years or every 4 years, or in the Senate every 6 years. Let's like I wish we could get back to a time where we could actually measure our success in generations
Mhm.
rather than in such small, because I truly believe it's this constant pursuit of profits every quarter that has done terrible damage to us. It's the lack of people understanding that, well, I'm not going to be around 20 years, so I don't care what happens to the climate. Like, sure, like whatever, you could do that. It's going to go 2.5 degrees. I'm not going to be here, without caring about their children, their children's children that are going to be the ones that are going to suffer that, or without understanding the immense human suffering that's going to happen.
Mhm.
Like, just dream with me that when America reinvents itself after we go through whatever hell that's coming up, that
Mhm.
we reinvent ourselves in a doing better,
More holistic
caring
way. Yeah.
caring about one another better, and then also just stop like looking at such a short term. And just really, for all the Zionists out there, you're the bad guy in this movie, and you will be remembered by history as being the bad guy.
Mhm.
Okay, you are the bad one, not me. I'm the one that wants to provide care. I like you, like you want to you like I understand that living with Palestinian people, in your mind you think terrorists or this, that, or whatever. You know how you make friends with people? You make sure their kids are fed. You make sure that their kids are educated.
Yeah.
You make sure that their families get vaccinations and that they have good jobs. And you make sure that you put a blanket of equity. You make sure that they're able to provide. They can travel freely. They can use their port. They've got a whole ocean there that they can utilize to come and go. You make sure of that. And if you provide that level of happiness for people, you can live happily. Look how I remember growing up when Egypt and Israel were constantly at war. But
Mhm.
since that peace treaty has been signed for like what, 50 years now,
Mhm.
45 years, however long, that treaty's never been violated once. And there is peace between Egypt and Israel. And
For now.
Zion.
With the way that Israel's been operating, they've been getting very aggressive, let's just say. But yeah, I
Yes,
agree. I
yeah.
agree to that point. Um, Station ID.
Yeah. If you're tuned in, you are listening to 102.3 WHIVLPFM in New Orleans, we are Radio Null HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. We are a mission with a radio station, and that is telling Israel to F off.
Yeah. On slightly brighter, though related sense, we did have some very good news this past week when it came to the victory of one. Well, not just the victory of Zohran Mamdani. Like, there were Democrats across the country, and I have a lot of problems with Democrats. Obviously, I live in a state. I live in Virginia now, and I had to essentially bite my tongue and hope for the victory of someone like CIA operative Abigail Spanberger, while also we did get our first Muslim statewide elected official here, Ghazala Hashmi, who, by the way, I can speak from experience that she shows up to picket lines. She shows up to union events.
Good.
She's about that labor cause. She rocks. And also Jay Jones, who can literally talk about putting two in the dome of his political enemies, which is
in
awesome.
An elevator.
Yeah. He literally said Hitler, Pol Pot, and this other politician. You're in the room with those three people. You have 2 bullets, and the Republican politician gets both of them.
Well, Jeff, it goes back to what you were saying. Yeah, no, it goes back to what you were saying what we were talking about Platner a moment. What we were talking about Platner a moment ago. These were things that would have been just that would have been deal killers.
Rail third, rail too hot. You don't touch that.
A couple of cycles, last cycle, you that would have just been. That would have been. I mean, having a Nazi tattoo on your chest would have been just a cycle ago. Would have been a deal killer, and it wasn't. And if we think about what happened yesterday, just beyond the big 4, right? Zohran, the Prop 50 in California, which was the only thing on the ballot. That was the only thing that was on the ballot. And the reason why, do you know why they call it Prop 50?
What? Because 50 states or something?
50 states. Good. Yeah, good on you, man.
That was a guess.
Yeah, no, that I wouldn't have been able to guess it, especially as quickly as you did, because of 50 states.
They're always cheesy about that kind of stuff. Politicians are, what I mean?
I thought that there was some numerical system or whatever. I just saw that the governor Newsom was just being interviewed. He's like, oh, because we got 50 states. Yeah. He was just so matter of fact about it. Mm-hmm. Then the 2 governorships, but everything under the ballot. I don't know of one Republican anything that won. I don't know of any Republican initiative, anything that won. I mean, when you talk about a blue tsunami, it was. And again, like you, I have many problems with Democrats. I've not been. I think when I was 20, I considered myself an independent and have been one since that long. But like you, many problems with the Democratic Party. But I don't know. Yesterday, last night, it felt really good. Today, it felt really good to know that at least drinking MAGA tears, looking at social
media.
Watch,
baby. The hogs are crying.
Looking at just drink. Oh, here, let me fill up my cup. It runneth over with MAGA tears. Just watching the people crying. And their vitriol. And it's so funny, their lack of self-awareness. How is it that if you even breathe anything about Charlie Kirk, they're like, fire you. You're not worthy of working, whatever. But then the things they were saying about Zohran, the vile racist, anti-Muslim, the communist, just knowing full well he's not. Stop with the communist thing. That.
And if he is, who cares?
Yeah, ring, 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 ring. Guess what? It's 1970 calling. Who cares that he's a it is.
J. Edgar Hoover is just sitting up in his grave and
right.
I'm back, baby.
God, it's just drinking and just watching my friends, as I like watch their, read their feeds and read the comments under them, and just the horribleness. But to be honest with you, I just enjoyed watching their hatred, their, just coming out, and the lack of self-awareness. It's like you cannot say a word about Charlie Kirk at all, at all. You can't even quote what he has said in the
No words.
past. You couldn't even quote what he
We
has
did it
said
on
in
this
his
show.
own words. Okay, right? We're gonna call your boss and get you fired, but you are gonna say the most horrific things about Zohran Mamdani, the most racist and anti-Muslim thing. So I don't know. It feels pretty good. But here's my thought on this. Do I trust the Democrats to clutch defeat from the jaws of success?
Always.
Yes, I do, 100%. So how far are
their
they
one
willing to
special
go
skill.
here? The one thing that we can definitely say, and I think what Mamdani like won with over 1 million votes, and he's the first person to have done it since like the 70s or something, that a mayoral candidate, the mayor, elect, at least in this case, won with over 1 million votes, which is a really big deal. But no more can people say, oh, you can't win with progressive ideals. No more can people say, oh, woke is not, woke is dead, or what have you. No more can people say that, because we're going to be able to point to New York City and say, this is the most important city, if not certainly the country, one of the most important cities in the world. The financial kind of underpinning that
Wall Street is there.
Right. And you're going to tell us now that progressive ideals don't work? No, sorry, Haas, move aside. This is a whole new world now. And I'm hoping that we can, run on that energy.
I will say this really quickly. You say that the Democrats will snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I feel like, in a sense, they already have, at least establishment Democrats, when you have, our favorite Senate leader. Our favorite Senate leader,
Schumer,
Charles Schumer.
We will win. We will win.
But he essentially.
Well, what do the Baileys have to think about that New York City? Have we checked in with the Baileys to see what the Baileys?
I think they were canvassing for Zohran, but Schumer just decided, and Jeffries as well. Like Schumer, decided to just completely dodge the question, not endorse Mamdani, and essentially try and pivot away from what was going in New York, when he is a New Yorker. He has a constituency that is definitely traditionally in New York. When Hakeem Jeffries, the Republican leader in the House, gave his quote unquote endorsement of Zohran Mamdani,
he never mentioned his name.
He never mentioned his name. He spent like the 90% of the time that he was doing this, like I said, quote unquote endorsement of Mamdani. He was talking about like how much he hated Zohran Mamdani essentially throughout the entire time. It's just like caveats. He only referred to him as the Democratic candidate. So, if you want to call that an endorsement, like, you're a fool.
Those guys are playing with fire. And I can't wait for primary season. I can't wait to see the clips of AOC announcing that she's running, against Schumer.
President.
Well,
that would be
there's
cooler.
that.
But even beyond that, though, like even someone who won last night, Abigail Spanberger, she won by a huge number. If you look on Monday, when she was asked about Monday prior to the election, she was asked about Zohran Mamdani, and she essentially said that he is not a Democrat, that he is making promises that he doesn't intend to keep. And, I was telling this to Robert on last week's show, like that is one of those, every accusation is a confession, because Zohran Mamdani is literally the Democratic nominee, and he is making the moves to deliver on the promises that he's making. Why don't you try and speak for yourself and try and deliver on the agenda of the for the people of Virginia, as opposed to doing what you did and how you ran this campaign, which is essentially promise nothing. Did you know that when Abigail, I got some smoke for Abigail, but like when she was running, she essentially, and I'd have to find the the quote exactly. So if I get it a little bit wrong, don't let it know. Don't get it twisted. But she essentially said if she wins and she gets a Democratic majority, rolling back something like right to work, and Labor went heavy behind Spanberger. Rolling back horrible anti-worker policies that the unions push for, like right to work, would not be a priority for her, and she might even not be on board. And it's just okay, then you're not going to be.
Jeff, explain to me. I thought right to work was a right wing. I thought that was a right wing policy that was just kind of named Orwellian. The Louisiana.
She would be repealing right to work. Essentially, she was asked if she would repeal it, which essentially is a mechanism to defund unions. Right to work is. If you repeal right to work.
Oh, and she said no.
She said she wouldn't work towards repealing it. It wouldn't be a priority for her.
Well, because in the end, these guys are all paid by billionaires anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All you're just saying is that these guys are just being paid by billionaires. That's all it is. Let's just, and I think the reason why you had people like Spanberger or Schumer or Jeffries or anybody, fill in the blank, who refused to acknowledge Zohran is because you remember maybe 2 months, 6 weeks ago, they were going to spend $15 million to learn how to speak to men. Right? Wasn't that one of the DCCC or whatever?
Men.
They had to speak to young men.
You know who supported Zohran Mamdani? A lot of young men and young women and all kinds of people across the spectrum.
Right. Like in New York City, it was 40 plus were young men under the age of 30 or something. It was some insane number that was, because he's speaking to their pain, and he also is not bought by corporations. He's not bought by individual billionaires, and I think he was shaming. I don't think he intended to. Maybe he did. I don't know. But you're not going to see a Schumer or Jeffries or whatever support somebody who is clearly does not need the support, the financial assistance of these large corporations,
millionaires and the billionaires,
right? And so without that, you can say and do whatever you want to do. Do I think he's going to deliver? I think he's certainly going to try. I think that it is possible. What are his three things? It's going to be freezing rents. It's the government-owned or the state-owned or city-owned grocery stores. It's the free transportation. At least those are the three. The buses.
Oh, universal childcare.
And universal childcare. The reason why these things may fail, or one of the main concerns that I have, is that people are going to want to see, because this is America, we don't want to share things with one another, right? And we will do anything. We will cut the collective nose to spite our face just so those people don't get the good things. And that's my concern, is that there's going to be real serious attempts to try to spike the ball here and try to ruin anything that he's trying to do.
Well, that's coming, no question. And I imagine that he's ready for it. And if you saw his speech last night, which we watched on the space, he was essentially doing the opposite of what Barack Obama did in 2008, which was Obama essentially took the key from the Rahm Emanuel wing, which was to essentially demotivate and disband his organizing apparatus.
Oh yes,
which got him the victory. Zohran Mamdani did no such thing. And even if he's not able to get those priorities through, if he is able to, at the very least, show his work that he is putting his back into fighting for that. It won't be as good as getting them done, obviously, but it will be at least showing to the people that the people of New York that this is going to be a fight and you need to be on board. I do want to touch on one other thing as well, which is Democrats and also a lot of right wingers are also doing this thing, which is complete BS about Zohran Mamdani, which is they're essentially saying that he is promising New Yorkers the moon, the stars, and everything in between. and like he was going to essentially like snap his fingers and implement hashtag full communism or whatever the hell. And that is not the case. He is promising very specific things. He has a very specific agenda, and he has a pathway to do it. That's why people got on board and supported it, not because he's, and Bernie was very similar. He ran his campaign very much like Bernie with a different energy and a different type of charisma because he's a different guy. But he made this campaign work because he has he met people are going to take away the wrong things and prepare to tank a lot of cringe when it comes to how Democrats are going to take their lessons away from this campaign. They're going to try and get an Abigail Spanberger type to do the quippy, social media context. That's what they want it to be, but they want to have it with the BS abundance messaging. That's not going to fly because that's not why Zohran was popular. It was a part of it. He had a slick social media team. He's a very, very good messenger, Obama level perhaps. And he has the ability to kind of win over whoever it is that he's sitting in front of, which is kind of amazing. But he's got an actual agenda here, and that's what's important. Sorry, I was going on.
And no, good. And before we cut to the break, I just want to kind of double down on a point that you were making a moment ago. I'd forgotten about what Obama had done, and I remember the great disappointment of when he broke up that coalition. That was so valuable for him. But essentially, you're right. Rahm Emanuel was trying to shift him over back to the right.
You know what he called the activist base, the mobilization base, Rahm Emanuel? You know what he called them?
He called them effing retards.
Our
right?
words. Yeah.
Yeah. Effing retards. I'll say it. He called them effing retards. And also just a quick side point before I wanted to make my point, which was, did you see there was an Atlantic article last week about, the article was a profile on Rahm Emanuel, and is Rahm, is he presidential? Is he the Democrats' answer to being president? To which I almost was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Really? You're going to see, okay. So this actually brings me to 2 points. So one, let me ask the point that I was going to say a moment ago. And that is, Zohran had a 90,000, I've seen two numbers, 90,000 or 100,000 volunteers. Now, if he continues to grab those people and engage them and engage the million people who voted for him or whatever, think about it. If he had 100,000 volunteers, that means if he had over 1 million voters, 1 in 10 of his voters actually worked for him. They were door knockers. Okay. So what if he continues to engage in those people? Right. And then once, if people do come and try to, derail his messaging or derail his priorities or his objectives, he will have an army of people who will be able to stand up, and because they're going to want those free buses, they're going to want that rent freeze. So this is something that's very unique, and it didn't occur to me until you had mentioned that about the Obama thing, because that was political currency that he completely
threw it away.
He just pissed it away, which was just horrific. And then the second point that I was going to make, I totally forgot. So I'll hand it back to you.
But and I did want to circle back station ID.
Yes, station ID. I'll do. You want me to do it? Can I do it?
Got it, big dog.
You are tuning in to. If you are tuning in,
it's WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. Good morning,
if you are tuned in, you are tuned in to 102.3 WHIVLP FM in New Orleans. You are listening to Good Morning Comrade. We are Radio Null HIV with programming dedicated to human rights, social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. We are a mission with a radio station, and that is to end all wars. Jeff, thank you so much. Do you want to do a quick Graham Platner?
Yeah, let's circle over to Platner. So we played a video at the top of the show of his assessment of Graham Platner, who's running for Senate in Maine. His assessment of Dick Cheney and how we will not celebrate him, despite the fact that he was a Marine and all this other stuff. There's been a lot of controversy around that guy. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, specifically things around his history as a military veteran. He was a machine gunner in the Marines in Iraq, I believe it was, or was it Afghanistan? I can't remember exactly. But then also probably more controversially, he worked for a private military company that was, I guess, formerly, or at least part of the sort of like formation of Blackwater. And more recently, I guess it's a bit of old news as of recording and release of this, but I do think it's worth getting into for a couple of reasons. A certain tattoo that he had that was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was Totenkopf, which is related to, it is essentially a Nazi symbol that he claims that he didn't know about it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I tend to think, and this is kind of a tired joke by now, but if you get drunk with a bunch of military guys in Croatia and you go to a tattoo shop, like, you have probably 100% chance of walking out of there with something Nazi related. But anyway, what do you make of all this, MarkAlain? And let's talk about that.
Let's start with the Totenkopf, because this is something that I have shared with you in the past. So I appreciate you kind of giving me the space to do this. I've made it very clear that I'm a very proud American Jew. I grew up in the 70s, which was approximately about 30 years after the Holocaust happened, and had to bear witness to many, many, many 8mm films that were recorded by Nazis, and in yeshiva and Hebrew school. I had to watch all of the horrors of the Holocaust. Now, personally, I think that was child abuse, and I really believe that trauma that they inflicted upon us as children. I was 5, I was 6, I was 7, I was 8 years old, having to watch these films of the Holocaust. Okay, so, but I am a proud Jewish. But when I talk about Jewish, I'm just talking about culturally Jewish. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God and all that stuff. But I am proud to be Jewish. I'm proud of the heritage of being Jewish. So it should come as no surprise.
It's a very shared, it's very deeply understood shared cultural experience that amongst many people and historical deal. It's very important.
Yes, very, very important. 7% of Americans are Jews. 14% of the total globe are Jews. Okay, so when we look at kind of my proudness of being a Jew, I too did not know what the Totenkopf was, and so it should come as no surprise. I was a goth kid growing up. The word goth didn't really exist to describe kind of like the scene that we were in, but we were all brooding and listened to Bauhaus and Nick Cave and whatever. And one day I'm at the record shop at UC Santa Cruz, or in Santa Cruz. I went to UC Santa Cruz in California, and I came across this
banana slugs.
Yes, well, it was even before we were banana slugs. I'm dating myself. We were the California Sea Lions.
Wow.
But while we were there,
the banana slugs.
While we were there, they took a poll. They said, "Do you guys want to be banana slugs now?" Because there's no sports teams. There was no frats. There was no nothing. Like the UCSC was like the total, like,
nerd school.
It was the nerd school. It was like the school where there was no frats. There was no grades, dude. There were no grades. We called our professors by their first names. It was like it was crazy. So I have this T-shirt that was like, no grades, no frats, thank you. And so anyway,
no gods, no masters, no grades, no frats, no professors,
no grades, no frats, no grades, no frats, no thank you, I think is what it was. And so, do you want to be the banana slugs? We were like, yes, because even the California Sea Lions was too muscular for us.
We want to be banana slugs, damn it.
And so, and when it rains in Santa Cruz, in the Santa Cruz forest, those banana slugs are everywhere. You have to be you cannot walk, no texting and walking while, because you will step on a banana slug. You have to look at the ground. Anyway, so I was at a record store. I bought a record by a band called Death in June. And on the cover of it had a cool image of a skull, kind of like at a profile with these two. It wasn't quite crossbones like a Jolly Ranger, Roger. It was, it was a Totenkopf. I had no idea what a Totenkopf was. So I really got into the band. It was really kind of spoke to the darkness that I was experiencing at the time. And I went and that same record store later had a keychain that was a Totenkopf keychain, and I bought it, and I used to kind of carry it around. And it wasn't until somebody kind of said to me, "Hey, you're Jewish, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Jewish." And they're like, "Why do you have a Totenkopf keychain?" And I looked at it, and I'm like, "Oh, is that what that's called? I just thought it was a cool design." Right? He's like, "No, that was a symbol of Nazism. That's what the Nazis used to wear." And I was like, Like, it was a complete eye-opening experience for me. I obviously went and looked it up, right? The only time I'll ever quote Reagan, trust but verify. I went to the library and looked up Totenkopf, and there it was, right? And that was it. Threw the records away, threw the keychain away, and I had completely forgotten about the story until Platner experienced what he experienced. So all that to say
Yeah.
is,
Just like hit the
even
memory
as
button.
right. All that to say is that even this Jewish dude, like, also experienced something that Plattner did. Is I didn't know what a Totenkopf was, but once I found out, I got rid of it, which is like what he did. But did you see that video of him singing the song to his?
No, I
You know
didn't.
how the whole thing came out? The
It was
whole
not like
thing.
a wedding. It was like a
He was at his
wedding.
brother's wedding and something,
Mhm.
and he sang like a Taylor Swift song, and he
Oh,
had his shirt off, and that's how that came out. So my thoughts. I mean, so you worked for Blackwater in the past. Okay, so what? Like, I mean, we saw what happened with who's the guy in Pennsylvania, the guy who had a stroke,
Oh,
the senator
Patterman.
Fetterman, right? We see how, like, people can change, right? In that case, he went from
Worse.
progressive, to worse. But I'm hopeful that at one, but he works for Blackwater, but he also was on Reddit, saying, like, I'm a communist now,
Socialist
and
Rifle
so,
Association, like at Medicare for all events, like out front. Yeah. Uh,
so right now he's saying all the right things. I really do believe he wants to take not Janet Mills, that's the governor. She's also running. Susan Collins. Did I
mhm.
tell you that when I lived in Maine, when I went to medical school, I voted for Olympia? I
Olympia
so
Snow and Susan Collins.
Olympia Snow was, and then Susan Collins. I voted for Susan. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to admit
It's
this.
all your fault.
So, I voted. I
You go to
voted for Susan
the
Collins
Iraq War.
when she first came to and we thought, we as Mainers, we thought it was the coolest thing in the world that we were the first state with two female. But those were the days when like, set, like, Republican or Democrat, like, that didn't make sense. That was even before the Gingrich revolution, right? Where you really looked at politicians for their ideas, not if they had an R and a D after their name. And so,
God,
but
that
no,
seems like a world that most people probably listening to this show probably have not experienced.
never seen. No, it was Gingrich. Gingrich was the one. Newt Gingrich was the one that actually was like, because you hear these stories of them being on the Senate floor, or they would be pointing at each other, but then later their families would go and have dinner together, or they would have picnics together on Sundays, or they would do the holidays together. But those days are obviously long, long, long gone. So here's my take on Plattner. If I were still living in Maine right now, I would be very supportive of him. I am
Mhm.
supportive of him. I'd vote for him. Janet Mills, who's the governor right now, she will
So,
be the oldest. If they swear her in, if she wins, like, did you hear this? She will be the oldest senator to be sworn in, like, or whatever. There's some statistic of, like, how her age, and she only wants to run for 6 years. It's just one term as a senator, just enough just to kind of blow the steam out of
yeah,
Plattner. So
she'll only be like 84 when she gets out of her first
84, got
term.
it. So yeah, so I don't know. My thoughts on it is, I say go Graham. I was in Portland at my medical school lecturing about 6 weeks ago. There's Graham Platner placards everywhere in Portland. So I think these are things that we can look beyond. And I have a small. I can relate with him with the Toten Cop thing. Like, I didn't know what it was either. So I don't know. I think these are forgivable sins.
If I thought it was possible that he was a Nazi, then I would like be very cautious. I think that there's much more evidence that he is not one. Also, obviously, not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't live in Maine, so I'm watching from afar, and we can definitely be talking about it. But like, I mean, I'm not going to be giving money to his campaign. I'm not going to be volunteering or anything like that. So, Maine can deal with Maine problems, and it seems like somebody who has the ability to motivate the people of Maine with a working class message is a good thing. And uh, and it is proof again that woke is dead. Nobody cares. They just want health care, which is cool. I'm actually fine with that. All right, we got to get out of here. This has been Good Morning Comrade. MarkAlain Dery, what do you want to shout out?
Yeah, listen, follow me, Bluesky, Substack, Healthcare for All. Jeff, thank you so much for having me on the show. Zohran
I'm on this space.
Yep, I'm on this space as well. I'm going to start pulling out a bunch of, I had to go on hiatus for a minute or two with making videos. So I'm going to go back to Substack and also this space. So you'll be catching a lot more of my videos, probably starting tomorrow.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening. You can check us out, goodmorningcomrade.com for more information, back issues. You're going to want to check out the show we did recently with Conrad Cable. He's running against Mike Johnson for Congress in Shreveport. Also, our friend Lauren Jewett, who's running against Steve Scalise for Congress. You want to check those episodes out. Goodmorningcomrade.com is your one-stop shop to get all that stuff. So please do check it out. You have been listening to Good Morning Comrade. This is WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. We love you. Bye-bye.